Welcome to Turning Points of History, where we explore the moments that have shaped our world. In episode 17, we journey to the late 1800s, an era of dramatic change and upheaval known as the Age of Imperialism. As European nations embarked on a quest for global dominance, they carved up vast territories across Asia, Africa, and the Pacific, leaving an indelible mark on the course of human history. So let's get started. The year is 1884, and the setting is Berlin. Here, European leaders are gathered not for a social call, but for a conference that will redraw the map of Africa. This event, now known as the Berlin Conference, marks a pivotal moment in the age of imperialism. But what was this age all about? Simply put, it was a period of intense competition between European powers to acquire colonies and expand their influence around the world. Motivated by a thirst for resources, new markets, and a desire for power, these nations set out to dominate every corner of the globe. Why Africa, you might ask? Well, it's a continent rich in resources, strategic location, and immense potential. The European powers, driven by their imperial ambitions, saw Africa as the next frontier, ripe for exploitation and eager to be claimed. And so at the Berlin Conference, they met to divide this vast territory amongst themselves. The conference was a meeting of the major European powers. There's Britain, then the largest empire on earth, boasting possessions across the globe. Next, there's France, determined to secure its place in the race for colonies. Then we have Germany, a latecomer to the game, eager to carve out its own piece of the African pie, not to be left out. Belgium and Portugal also joined the conference, each hoping to lay claim to parts of Africa and assert their own imperial dominance. But how did this conference change the course of history? The outcome was nothing short of dramatic. The attendees agreed to the formal partition of Africa. Most of the continent was quickly divided into colonies, protectorates, and spheres of influence controlled by these European powers. They carved up the land amongst themselves without regard for the existing borders, ethnic groups, or the people who had lived there for centuries. Take, for example, the mighty British Empire. With its far-reaching dominion, it claimed vast territories in South Africa, including the Cape Colony, Natal, and Transvaal. These regions became integral parts of the British Empire, shaping its trajectory and influencing its role on the world stage. Then we have the French, who were eager to establish their own colonial holdings. They laid claim to territories in North Africa, including Algeria, as well as parts of West Africa, such as Senegal and French Guinea. These areas became French colonies, marking the beginning of a long and complex relationship between France and Africa. Germany, Belgium, and Portugal also staked their claims. Germany secured territories like German East Africa, present-day Tanzania, and parts of Namibia. Belgium took control of the Congo, a region that would become infamous for its brutal exploitation under King Leopold II's regime. Meanwhile, Portugal held on to Angola and Mozambique, continuing its legacy of colonial rule in these areas. The impact of the Berlin Conference was profound. It effectively ended the era of independent African states, plunging the continent into a new chapter of foreign domination. The consequences of this decision would reverberate for generations, shaping the political, economic, and social landscape of Africa for decades to come. At this point, it's crucial to understand the driving forces behind imperialism. Why did these European powers feel the need to dominate and rule over distant lands? What were the motivations and ideologies that fueled this age of exploration and conquest? There are several key factors at play. First and foremost, there's the quest for resources. Industrialization in Europe created a voracious appetite for raw materials. European nations sought to exploit the abundant resources in Africa, Asia, and the Pacific, such as gold, diamonds, rubber, and timber, to fuel their growing industries back home. Economic gain wasn't the only motivation. European powers also desired new markets for their manufactured goods. By establishing colonies, they could create captive markets for their products, ensuring a steady flow of income. The competition for colonies intensified as each nation sought to outmaneuver the others and secure the most advantageous position in the global economy. Furthermore, the pursuit of power and prestige played a significant role. Imperialism was intertwined with the concept of national pride and dominance. Ruling over vast territories and subjugating foreign populations became a way to demonstrate a nation's strength and superiority. The more colonies one had, the greater the perceived power and prestige. The Berlin Conference epitomizes this scramble for dominance. The European powers, driven by their insatiable desires for resources, markets, and power, were willing to carve up entire continents without any regard for the people who lived there. It's a stark reminder of how unchecked ambition can lead to the dispossession and subjugation of entire populations. As we delve deeper into the heart of this turning point, it's essential to explore the profound impact it had on the lives of millions. Under the shadow of colonialism, how did the colonized people fare? What were the consequences of this new world order? Picture this. You are an African living in the late 1800s. Your world is turned upside down as European powers descend upon your homeland, ready to claim it as their own. Your land, your resources, and even your way of life are no longer yours. you find yourself under the oppressive rule of a foreign power, subjected to their laws, their customs, and their exploitation. Life under colonial rule was far from easy. European powers implemented policies that favored their own interests, often at the expense of the colonized people. They exploited the land and its resources, draining the wealth from the colonies without investing back in the communities that sustained it. For instance, in British India, the British East India Company had already laid the groundwork for exploitation. The company's focus on extracting resources and profits from India set the stage for continued economic exploitation under direct British rule. They introduced policies that made it difficult for local industries to compete with those back in Britain. The result was the impoverishment of many local communities. Similarly, in Africa, the European powers focused on cash crops and extractive industries. They forced Africans to grow crops like coffee, cocoa, and cotton for export, while neglecting the production of food crops. This shift not only disrupted traditional ways of life, but also led to food shortages and famines in some regions. It wasn't just about economic exploitation. The colonial powers also imposed their cultural norms and values on the colonized people. They suppressed local languages, religions, and customs, attempting to replace them with their own. This cultural suppression aimed to create a sense of inferiority and dependence among the colonized population, making it easier to maintain control. Despite the hardships and injustices they faced, the colonized people were not passive victims. Resistance movements began to emerge, albeit they often took subtle forms. Some rebellions were violent, such as the Maji Rebellion in German East Africa, where African warriors fought against German colonial forces. Others took the form of civil disobedience and non-violent resistance, as seen in India with Mahatma Gandhi's movement for independence. These struggles were not only about gaining political freedom, but also about preserving cultural identity and achieving economic justice. The colonized people yearned to break free from the shackles of oppression and create a future that was truly their own. The age of imperialism left an enduring legacy on the world we live in today. Its impact is evident in the geopolitical landscape, economic disparities, and cultural exchanges that continue to shape our planet. On the positive side, this era did bring about some advancements. European colonialism introduced new technologies, infrastructure, and medical innovations to many parts of the world. For example, the British Raj in India saw the construction of railways and the introduction of modern healthcare systems. Similarly, the French colonial empire brought about improvements in transportation and public works in regions like Vietnam and Algeria. However, it's crucial to acknowledge that these advancements came at a steep cost. The exploitation and oppression of colonized people overshadowed any benefits that these technologies may have brought. Moreover, these improvements were often concentrated in urban areas while vast rural populations remained marginalized and impoverished. One of the most significant impacts of imperialism was the lasting economic disparities it created. The wealth extracted from colonies contributed to the industrialization and economic growth of the colonizing nations, while the colonized regions were left drained of their resources and burdened with poverty. This economic inequality persists to this day, with former colonies often lagging behind their colonizers in terms of development and living standards. Imperialism also left an indelible mark on the political landscape. The arbitrary borders drawn by European powers during the scramble for Africa have persisted, dividing communities and creating conflicts. For example, the Democratic Republic of the Congo, formerly a Belgian colony, has suffered from instability and conflict due to its artificial borders that disregarded ethnic and linguistic divisions. Moreover, the legacy of colonialism continues to shape global power dynamics. The dominance of European languages, institutions, and legal systems in many parts of the world is a testament to the lasting influence of imperialism. Even after formal colonial rule ended, the economic and political ties between colonizers and colonized persisted, often to the detriment of the latter. Despite the hardships endured during the age of imperialism, the colonized people's struggle for freedom left an inspiring legacy. The rise of independence movements across Asia and Africa in the 20th century was a testament to the indomitable spirit of those fighting for self-determination. As we reflect on this turning point, it's crucial to learn from both the advancements and the mistakes of the past. Imperialism serves as a reminder of the dangers of unchecked power, the importance of respecting sovereignty, and the value of cultural diversity. In today's world, we continue to grapple with the legacy of colonialism and the pursuit of economic justice and cultural preservation. The struggles of those who fought against imperialism inspire us to challenge oppressive systems and strive for a more equitable world. We hope you found this episode of Turning Points of History both informative and thought-provoking. If you enjoyed learning about the age of imperialism, please don't hesitate to show your support. Your support means the world to us. Thanks for joining us on this journey through time. Until next time, keep asking questions, keep seeking knowledge, and keep exploring the fascinating events that have shaped our world.